Jazz fans, I need y'all to get up and actually get excited about this. The Jazz are doing great things, and Will Hardy is officially coming to the Utah Jazz to be the next head coach. And at 34 years of age, he's officially the youngest head coach in the NBA. Will Hardy, welcome to Utah. Now, Jazz fans, before we actually get into today's video, if you guys could, drop me a like. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA, Jacksonville Jaguars, and of course, Utah Jazz content that I do here on YouTube. And if you guys could, make sure y'all go follow me on my socials. The link tree will be in the description down below for both my Twitter and Instagram. But now let's get into today's video. Now, I want to give a little bit of a backtrack and a little bit of a backstory about who Will Hardy is. And like I said, he's 34 years of age, a relatively young guy, and now the youngest head coach in the NBA. He's the exact same age as Mike Conley. Now, Will Hardy started off in San Antonio. I believe he's a video film assistant up in San Antonio before moving down to the bench and was an assistant head coach. So he comes from the Greg Popovich tree. Obviously, Greg Popovich being one of the greatest head coaches of this decade and this generation in general, but also just one of the greatest coaches who have ever coached in this association. So he comes from the Greg Popovich tree. He was in the huddle consistently before he departed for Boston, and he was a part of that Ime Udoka team and this Boston Celtics team that ended up going to the NBA Finals this past season prior to falling to the Golden State Warriors. And Will Hardy, you have to credit him with a lot of success of the Boston Celtics this past season. While Ime Udoka, a first-year head coach, did phenomenal things, Will Hardy, as the assistant to the head coach, did phenomenal things as well too. Throughout the first middle part of the season and through the first middle part of the regular season, the Boston Celtics were a sub 500 team. I believe they had a 23-24 record at one point, if memory serves me correctly. Before the flip switched on this Boston Celtics team, they had a different identity, a different mental and physical toughness to their game, and they took a lot of prowess and identity with them on the defensive side of the ball, which is what eventually led them to having success, dominating the second half of the regular season, taking over as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference before dominating the Eastern Conference playoffs by beating and sweeping the Brooklyn Nets, by defeating the reigning defending NBA champions in the Milwaukee Bucks, regardless if they had Chris Middleton or not, in a clutch Game 7. Then they go down Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They go down to South Beach. They beat Miami in the Jimmy Butler-led Heat. Then they eventually fall, like I said, to the Golden State Warriors and the heroics of Steph Curry in that dynasty. But this mental, physical, and defensive prowess that this team plays with, you credit that a lot to what Ime Udoka and the lead assistant and Will Hardy was able to do with this team. Will Hardy clearly knows his X's and O's, and he takes accountability. That's the biggest thing that the Utah Jazz desperately need for this culture and this new regime that they desperately need. Let me get into Quinn Snyder now really quickly, because while I absolutely love Quinn Snyder, the second most winningest head coach in the Utah Jazz's history, and while a lot of Jazz fans hold Quinn Snyder deeply in their hearts and we thank him for everything, for basically making us relevant once again and building a culture, he got outcoached the last 3 postseasons. Will Hardy gives the Jazz something to be excited about, because you can make an argument that the Jazz were better than those Denver Nuggets when we blew a 3-1 lead in the bubble. You could make an argument that we should have beat Ty Lue and the LA Clippers in the Western Conference semifinals. You can make an argument we should have beat those Dallas Mavericks in the first round of these postseason this season prior to falling down to Jason Kidd and a hobbled Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson. Quinn Snyder got outcoached. Quinn Snyder was a guy who was very hard-headed and was an ineptitude to making changes. That's why the Jazz consistently were blowing 20-point leads and consistently not maintaining a lead. It comes down to defensive prowess, the ability to make changes throughout a game, but also taking accountability. Taking accountability is something Will Hardy's going to bring to the Utah Jazz organization, coming from that Greg Popovich and now Ime Udoka tree. Will Hardy at 34 years of age, it's not just on him to change the Utah Jazz. It's not just on Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, the 2 lead anchors to this Utah Jazz team. It's not just on Danny Ainge, David Fizdale now, and Justin Zanuck to change the Utah Jazz. It takes everyone to make the necessary sacrifices to not only build the proper team around these players, to not only coach the team, and it's not for the players to just execute. It takes everyone to sacrifice and to make the necessary changes in order to take accountability, to make the greatest sacrifice for the team and the organization moving forward. That's exactly what this team needed, and that's exactly what they're going to be getting. Because it looks like from all the reports, Will Hardy's going to be bringing his own coaching staff, which probably means Alex Jensen's out the door, and I want to thank Alex Jensen personally for being a phenomenal assistant coach these last couple of seasons. I wanted Johnny Bryant the entire time this process was going on, but I'm super excited for Will Hardy, man. But also, I want to see if the Jazz are going to make any trades to not only go for the home run and still look to compete while they still have Donovan Mitchell and a happy late 30th birthday to Rudy Gobert as well too. That probably means that Royce O'Neal, Mike Conley, and a handful of others would be off the books, because I hope and I pray that the Utah Jazz do not let go of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. I believe that relationship is not as far-fetched as others say it is. I do believe that's a very mendable relationship, and those guys are still relatively younger in the midst of their prime. Please keep them and build around them while you still have a brand new culture, a brand new face, and a regime that you can keep intact right now. And also the Jazz need to keep Bogdanovich. Let me make that clear. But I'm excited to see what the Jazz are going to do with Will Hardy on a 5-year deal, because this gives him time to not only prove himself, build in a coaching staff, and build a new culture and regime here. But I'm just super excited for Will Hardy, man. Excited to see what the Jazz do, and I pray that in the next week or two that the Jazz make some big time trades and they actually go for the big gun and they actually try to go and compete with the LA Clippers, who are going to be healthy this year, with the Golden State Warriors, with the Denver Nuggets returning back to health, and all the top teams in the Western Conference. I pray that the Jazz go and make some big time trades and that they can go and try to compete this season. But Jazz fans, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys make of Will Hardy coming as the next head coach for the Utah Jazz? And now that David Fizdale is now going to be the assistant GM to Justin Zanuck, I'm super excited about that move too. I'm just glad David Fizdale is not actually down in the huddle, which is something I'm grateful about too, though. But Jazz fans, like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA, Jacksonville Jaguars, and of course, Utah Jazz content that I do here on YouTube. But Jazz fans, thank y'all for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jazz, baby. Take note. Peace.